Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I came home from work at the usual time. My wife has been ironing one of her cocktail dresses for the past 6 years. Thinking that we had plans for the evening, I was glad. I love taking my wife out into the city. When we went outside, she always looked very attractive, and the envious glances of other guys never stopped arousing me. She was with me, and they could only watch. Her dark skin, she was the daughter of Mexican immigrants, and deep brown eyes never ceased to excite me, and combined with long flowing hair and a slender athletic body created an amazing image. She did crew training, rowing in college, and still has a muscular physique, although the muscles have lost some of their sharpness, since lately she has been doing more running and aerobics than rowing. Before I could ask her about our plans for the evening, she turned the conversation in another direction. "You'll never guess who I ran into today," Maria said without slowing down the rhythm. "Anthony." Anthony? Anthony? I struggled to remember that name, especially since it referred to the person she would have been so happy to see, presumably after a while. There was only one Anthony that came to mind, and I ventured a guess. "Anthony, is this your high school boyfriend, Anthony?" I asked. "Yes, can you imagine? From nowhere after all these years." For the record, Anthony was my wife's boyfriend for the last 2 years of high school. I've never met him, having met Mireya in college, but I've heard of him. Oh my God, I've heard about him. They only broke up because their colleges were so far apart, but they were in love with each other, at least according to her. And although I met my future wife during orientation in the first year, and we immediately found a common language, I had to settle for friendship because she was not ready for a relationship yet. At the end of the first year, she agreed to become my girlfriend, but in the summer she left for her hometown, Salinas, California. I visited her once for a few days and met her very large, very traditional Mexican family, but they readily accepted this white guy into their clan. I think my swarthy Italian skin contributed to this. I was wondering if Anthony showed up during that summer, but none of us brought up the subject, and I hoped that everything was behind us. "Where did you run into him?" I asked. "In the lobby of my office building. I was just returning from lunch and saw him in the lobby. I was trying to figure out if it was really him when he saw me. He recognized me immediately. He is a representative of a pharmaceutical company, comes to this region every other Wednesday, and was here to meet with some doctors in this building. Isn't that amazing?" "Yes, it's amazing," I agreed. I would be even more surprised if I didn't care how excited she was about it. I mean, what is the probability that we will meet by chance like this? It struck me so much. Anyway, we're having dinner tonight to catch up. That explained the cocktail dress. I didn't like the idea of having a third person with her during our dates. I preferred her to be alone. But it was a special situation, and I could put up with it to make her happy. "Oh, good. When do I need to be ready to go out?" She stopped stroking. "I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean that we're all having dinner, just him and me. I didn't like the way it sounded." "What do you mean, just you and him? Why don't you want me to be present?" He asked if I wanted to have dinner so we could catch up, and I agreed. We're just going to talk about old times, and I don't want to worry about what you think or what you might say about what happened before I met you. I just want to be able to speak freely, and besides, you'd probably be bored all the time. But you know that I only love you, baby. Honey, it's totally inappropriate for a married woman to meet another man alone, especially an ex-boyfriend. Even assuming nothing happens, what if someone we know sees you on a date with someone other than me? "Henry, this is not a date. It's just a dinner for 2 old friends. I can't believe you're making me so upset about this." She put down the iron and picked up the dress to check for creases. "If this isn't a date," I asked, "then why are you making one of your attractive cocktail dresses?" "You know I like to dress up when I go on a date," she countered. "It doesn't mean anything. It's like you don't trust me." "I trust you, but it's not just a matter of trust. How would you like it if I insisted on going to dinner with one of my ex-girlfriends, and at the same time did not fail to tell you to stay at home? I would say that this is normal, because I trust you and I know that you love me and only me. I didn't believe it for a minute. Mireya, I'm not satisfied with this. You're not going to have dinner with Anthony alone. Either you're not coming or I'm coming with you." It made her angry. "You are not my father, you are my husband. I'm a grown woman and you can't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. I'll go, but you won't, and if you don't like it, then it's very bad." She took the dress off the ironing board and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. I took a beer out of the fridge and sat down at the kitchen table. We always discussed such things until we came to an agreement on how to proceed. Not once has either of us told the other that we will do what we want, and if they don't like it, then it's very bad. When she finally came out, I had to admit that she looked great, although my main thought was that she looked too great for what she had to do. As she passed me, she stopped and kissed me on the cheek. "We'll talk about this in more detail when I get home, okay?" There was nothing I could do about it. "We've already talked about this, and you've made your position clear. You're going to do what you want, and I don't care what I think about it. It's good that you know our rules for the future. Just don't forget to use a condom." "I'm not going to make love to him. It's just dinner, damn you." With that, she stormed out of the house. I went to bed early. She left the house at about 19 o'clock, and I heard the bedroom door open at about 22:30. She immediately went to the shower, although she always took a shower in the evening, so there was nothing unusual about it. She slid towards me, and I saw that she was naked. She whispered in my ear, "Baby, I wouldn't mind today. Do you want some conciliatory affection?" I turned to her. "To be honest, the idea that you're going to get turned on by Anthony and then come home for love doesn't really interest me. I'd just like to know who you're thinking about. Besides, I don't think we've reconciled yet." I rolled over onto my back. As expected, it was not very pleasant, but her arguments did not meet her expectations. "Well, would you rather I get turned on by you and then make love to him?" she snapped. Without turning around, I said, "So you admit that being with him turns you on?" "No, that's it. That's not what I meant. I meant that no matter what happens, I will only make love to you. I love you, damn it, and I don't understand why you can't figure it out and trust me." She just didn't understand. I sat down and turned to face her. "And I can't understand why you don't understand why it bothers me. It doesn't matter who you were to him before, but now you're my wife, and it seems like my feelings should have some weight. Before, they always had weight, but now that St. Anthony is in town, I've suddenly become just an obstacle that needs to be dealt with so that you can do what you want." Her head dropped. "You're right, baby. I'm sorry. I should have been more attentive to your feelings. I was caught up in the moment, the excitement of seeing him again, and I forgot who was really important to me. Can you forgive me?" Reassured that she finally understood, I pulled her to me. "Of course I can forgive you, sweetheart." She looked up at me with her beautiful brown eyes. "Can we make love now?" We can, and we got busy. I forgot about it until 2 weeks later when Mireya called and said that she was late at work. She needed to finish some special project. It was Wednesday, the very day old Anthony was supposed to drive through on his usual schedule. I didn't believe it was a coincidence. And so on the way home from work, I decided to stop by her office. On the way, I bought a couple of sandwiches, hiding behind the fact that I was just bringing her dinner. Well, am I not prudent? I checked in at the security desk and headed to her office. Mireya worked in the reception area of a large insurance company, and this was the first time in 3 years that she had to stay at work. The front door was locked since it was off hours, so I knocked. The door was glass, so she saw me when she came to the door. I expected the office to be empty, but she was sitting at her desk and working, and of course she turned as soon as she saw me in the doorway. Her beautiful smile lit up her face. "Hi, baby, what a pleasant surprise." She came over and kissed me. "What do I owe you?" "I brought you a sandwich for dinner. I thought we could have dinner, even though you had to stay late at work." "How nice. Then let's eat, just hurry up. The more time I spend out of work, the longer I have to be here." We ate for 15 minutes, talked about our days, and then I left her to do her own thing. I drove home feeling stupid for doubting her. Maybe this dinner was the end of it. They made up, she put him out of her mind, and that was it. I was ready to trust her. Until 2 weeks later, it all happened again. The same phone call came that she was being held up at work as part of another special project. If that was true, it meant that the company was putting more responsibility on her, and that was a good thing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was just a legend. The timing was too coincidental. This time I just called her, even though it was her direct line. I knew that the caller ID would identify me, and she would pick up the phone, and I would know that she was at work, unlike a call to a mobile phone, which she could answer no matter where she was. It would seem that this is an easy way to make sure that she is in the workplace when she said she would be. The entire office was equipped with cameras, so it was extremely unlikely that she would try to do anything in the office. I called her at 5:45 and again at 6:30, and both times she answered the phone on the second ring, without the slightest hint of anything unusual. A quick, "I love you, I miss you, I want to hear your voice," and that was it. I calmed down with that, being sure that she was right, and I was just paranoid. When she came home on time the following Wednesday, when Anthony was in town, I finally accepted that it was over. 2 weeks later, Mireya called again and said she was late at work, but it was Thursday, not Wednesday, and I relaxed. Then it happened every other Thursday, but I still called every time at least once so as not to lose my head. She always answered. Perhaps everything would have continued like this if it hadn't been for the office party hosted by Mireya's insurance company, which took place about 4 months after the start of this trial. It took place after work on Friday in the banquet hall of a nearby Mexican restaurant. They held 2 such events a year, one at Christmas and one in June, when this event took place. I recognized some of the faces, but I didn't know the names because I saw these people so rarely. As the evening progressed, I got into conversation with some of the other participants. Some of them were spouses/significant partners, and some were employees. A fateful conversation ensued with an elderly woman named Sheila, who introduced herself as an office manager and the main manager of additional work. "So you're putting an end to my married life," I said jokingly. She looked puzzled. "I'm sorry if that's the case, but I don't quite understand what you mean," she said. Trying to keep my levity, I mentioned the special projects that Mireya is regularly assigned, forcing her to stay for a couple of hours a couple of times a month. Her expression became serious. "I'm sorry, Henry, but I'm a little confused," Sheila said. "Over the past few months, I have not assigned your wife any additional projects. We only had a couple anyway, and other people got both of them. I know that in the last few months she has sometimes worked late, but this was done in order to compensate for the 3-hour lunches she took to run errands." Well, didn't I feel stupid? I mumbled some excuse that I was confused while a huge lump formed in my stomach. I went to the bathroom, but somehow I managed to hold on to my dinner. I took my wife at her word. That's what trust means, and it looks like everything went to waste. The fact that she stays late to cover a long lunch just didn't occur to me. The transition to Thursdays was explained quite simply. Anthony could simply make changes to his route. Maybe he did it because it seemed to me that I had become suspicious since I was checking on her, or maybe it just happened that way. In any case, everything was clear now. All that was missing was evidence. When the next every other Thursday came, I parked my friend's car in front of my wife's office building, and of course, just after 12 o'clock, I saw my wife and the one I thought was Anthony come out of the lobby holding hands and headed for the parking lot. I took some pictures while they were walking. I was a little surprised that they were so open. Maybe her colleagues didn't know exactly what I looked like, but I assumed they knew it wasn't me. They got into the Ford Tega. Mireya had a Samgu, so I assumed it was his car, and drove out onto the road. I was right behind them. The traffic was heavy enough that I could stay close without being noticed, and they drove into the Sireg 8 motel, circling it from behind and missing the office. Apparently he was prepared. I took a parking spot next to them and took a picture of them. He led them out, opening the door of the hotel room. They stopped at the door when she kissed him with a long kiss with her tongue, and I saw how his hand ended up at her breast. My stomach jumped and I noticed that she was still wearing her rings. I wondered if it turned him on that she was wearing my rings when they were making love. While waiting, I made several calls, arranging an appointment with a lawyer and informing the office that I would be away for several days. But mostly I sat and waited. Finally, at about 2:30 a.m., the door opened. I started snapping pictures again. Mireya was still buttoning and straightening her clothes. Her hair was noticeably disheveled. I didn't need action shots to figure out what was going on there, and I didn't need them either. The fact that she was with him at the hotel was proof enough for me. I put the phone away and went home. I was grateful that we didn't start a family and buy a house. This parting would be quite simple in terms of things. There were only our cars and some money in the bank, which were easily divided 50-50. The call came in as expected. She was working late on another project again. I just said that everything is fine and I'll see you around 7:30. I didn't call her in the evening, deciding that it didn't make sense, but she noticed, and I had to think further. "Honey, I've been looking forward to your calls. You called me every time I was late at work to tell me that you love me. What happened?" "I'm sorry, baby. I was working on something in the garage. I lost track of time. And before I knew it, you were on your way home. I promise not to forget anymore, although I hope that the late evenings will end soon." Soon, I think. If not, then I will ask for a short break and ask you to transfer the projects to someone else. I am determined that the next time will be the last. I did everything I could, even split the finances. I paid all the bills and conducted banking operations so that she wouldn't notice anything. Although I knew what was going to happen, I didn't pursue her anymore. I had everything I needed. So when she called and said she was late again, I was at work and wasn't surprised. I had a snack on the way home. I ate, but I didn't taste it. Then I started to pack my things. It was a few hours before Maria's arrival, and I only had clothes and toiletries. The entire decor of the apartment was in the Maria style, and the kitchen utensils were cheap and versatile. I didn't need any of this. I called her, as before, to leave everything as it is for the last time. By 7:25, when Maria returned, I was fully packed and ready to leave, and my things were already loaded into the car. She was in a good mood when she walked through the door. "Hi, baby," she said. "How was your day?" She tried to kiss me, but I dodged. "Maria, we need to talk." "Okay, honey. Let me put these things down." We were sitting at the kitchen table, which had so many memorable moments over the years of our life together. She was just smiling at me, as if we were going to discuss whether to buy a new sofa that we were considering. She didn't even know what was waiting for her. "So, you've been working late a lot lately. How are your projects progressing?" "Great, great. They seem very impressed with my work. Hopefully this will mean good prospects." "Tell me about them." "What?" Of course, she did not expect this, thinking that it would be enough to tell me that she had projects and I would never express a desire to know the details. She didn't think that far ahead. "Projects, tell me about them. What have you been doing?" "Well, it's just, some analysis, of tariffs in certain areas and, well, stuff like that." "I'm glad you're doing well. Is there anything you would like to tell me?" "Just that I love you, but you already know that." I thought I knew until I found out about you and Anthony." She exhaled in despair. "It's that again, Henry. Damn it, I didn't do anything to him. I haven't even seen him since that one time a few months ago." "Haven't seen him in months? It's true? Are you sure about this?" "Yes, Henry, I'm sure." But her expression betrayed the uncertainty of her words. She was worried. "Then maybe you can tell me who this guy is in these photos from 2 weeks ago, if it's not Anthony?" I spread out the photos I had taken on the table, in which she was depicted leaving the room in a mess. Her head fell off. The divorce papers were next on the table. "No, Henry, please. It was nothing. It was simple. Nothing. Can't we forget about it? Consultations or something else, whatever you want." "Of course not, Mireya. I told you when we started dating that cheating is a reason to break up a relationship, and I don't accept it. You're my wife, and in the last few months alone, there have been countless occasions when I wasn't even the last person you made love to. And then you lied about it to the point that I had to show you the photos. You've shown a complete lack of respect for me and our marriage. We don't stand a chance. I thought we had a good marriage. I'm sorry that I wasn't enough for you." "Oh, Henry, please don't ever think that this has anything to do with you. I love you with all my heart, and it's never been about you. I can't even explain it. All those old school feelings came back when I saw him for the first time, and I wanted to experience them again. That first night we just had dinner, and I thought that would be the end of it. Then he kept invading my thoughts. When you and I met, I was a virgin, so I've never experienced this with the man I thought was my first love. I got carried away with it, and when he came back 2 weeks later and invited me to lunch, I agreed. As a result, we ended up in a hotel. I did it voluntarily. I wish I could say I didn't want to, but I agreed. After that, it became easier each time, but less and less fun. I thought about ending it, but obviously I was too late. I'm sorry, Henry. Please, I love you. Isn't there something I can do to fix the situation?" "I'm sorry too, Mireya. I really loved you. I left the apartment for the last time." 4 months later, the divorce was final. At least she respected me by not resisting. I got a 2-room apartment, and Mireya, to everyone's surprise, transferred to another office and moved in with Anthony. I completely focused on work until the divorce was finalized, received a good bonus, and put myself in line for a promotion when a large Japanese electronics company provided us with its business based on my presentation. I still missed her, even though I knew I would never be able to be with her again. She has always been the most beautiful woman in the world to me, so how could I stay with her after that? Almost a year after that last evening at the kitchen table, I received a message from Mireya, in which she informed me that she was in town and asked if we could meet for a drink. We agreed to meet at a small bar near my apartment. When I entered, I saw her at the other end of the room and immediately noticed that she had lost weight. She still looked beautiful, but in a different way. I greeted her warmly, hugged her lightly, and kissed her on the cheek. "So, what brings you to the city, Mireya?" I asked, sitting down at the table opposite her. I ordered a Coke as I had never been addicted to alcohol, which Mireya knew about, but I surprised her a little by adding strawberry daiquiri. She noticed. "Alcohol, Henry? It's not like you. Over the past year, everything has changed a lot. Life is full of surprises." "It's probably true. Actually, I'm thinking about moving back in. I miss this place." "Can Anthony work in this area?" It was a sincere question. I've already forgotten about anger and resentment. "We are not together anymore. He cheated on me." "Is it true?" How ironic, I thought. It turns out that I wasn't the only permanent stop on his route even then, and he didn't stop with any of them even after I moved in with him. "I'm really sorry to hear that. How did you find out about this?" "It seems there are other husbands who are less understanding than you. Several of them got together to physically express their dissatisfaction with him sleeping with their wives and offered to move to another place. After he left the hospital, he disappeared. I have no idea where he went. She didn't look very disappointed. It couldn't have happened to a nicer person. So are you trying to get back to work at this office?" "I'm trying, but everything is postponed while I try to negotiate one specific case." She smiled at me with that smile of hers that I could never resist. "But everything has changed, as I said before." "And about what, Mireya?" As if I didn't know. "Henry, I'm very sorry for what I did. I was a fool who fell in love with a memory, with a man who no longer exists and may never have existed. We had a wonderful marriage, and I still love you. I've learned my lesson. Is there a chance?" At this moment, a certain figure in a blue knee-length dress entered the door and headed towards my table, or rather, towards me. The tall blonde put her purse on one of the other chairs and kissed me on the cheek. "Hi, baby. I'm sorry I'm late. I've had a long production meeting." Without waiting for an answer, she took a daiquiri and pulled it through a straw for a long time. "I know, I got your message. Is everything settled?" "Of course not. It doesn't happen like that, you know. But I've finished talking about work and I'm ready to start our evening. I started dating." "Renee, this is Mireya, my ex-wife. Mireya, this is my girlfriend, Renee. It's really nice to finally meet you," Renee purred, and it was completely sincere. "I was very happy when Henry told me that you were in town and we would meet for a drink. I've heard a lot about you." "I hope it's a little good," Mireya joked. "Almost everything, actually. He speaks very highly of you, except for the last few months of your marriage, but I guess that's to be expected," Renee replied. I saw Mireya's eyes become a little wet. "He's a good guy," she said. "Hold on to him. Be smarter than I was. I plan to do it. We have already set a date." I watched silently and with some pity as Mireya's eyes found the wedding ring on Renee's finger, and she seemed to deflate a little when I looked at her. "Congratulations, it is wonderful. I'm happy for you." Renee smiled sadly. "You were hoping to get him back, weren't you?" "I was hoping," Mireya admitted. "I was hoping that in the intervening time we could try again. I didn't know you were seeing anyone, Henry, let alone engaged. I was hoping that maybe you would try your luck with me, but it looks like I don't have a chance anymore. I guess I should go." "I wish you wouldn't do that," Renee said, putting her hand on Mireya's arm. "I really wanted to get to know you better." Mireya was clearly puzzled. "Why? Why would you want to meet your fiancé's ex-wife?" "Mireya, you have been a big part of his life for a long time and are very important to him. You helped make him the person I fell in love with. Why wouldn't I want to get to know you better, even make friends? At the same time, I will never let you two stay together, but I think it's just common sense." "Yes," said Mireya ironically. "As someone once told me, it's not worth a person in a relationship to be alone with his ex. If only she had followed that advice when I gave it to her."